Hi, today we're going to take a look at a pretty unconventional lens. This is the Yasuhara 35mm Anthy lens. So let's see what it can do. Six years ago, in May 2014, we published a review of the Nanoha 5X super macro lens made by the tiny Japanese manufacturer Yasuhara. Today we are publishing our second review of the lens by the same manufacturer, the Anthy 35mm f1.8, a small compact manual focus lens designed for mirrorless full-frame cameras. We got the Anthy just before the pandemic began, and so we had a few months to play with it. We will start as always with the design and build quality before we move over to the performance and give you our final verdict. The Anthy has a fairly simple optical formula with 9 elements in 7 groups. It is made of metal and feels very much like a good quality classic lens. The rings, mount and even the hood are all made out of metal. The lens is lightweight and compact. It measures about 8 centimeters, 3 inches long, and is just over 400 grams or a little above 14 ounces. The Anthy has 2 rings, both with hard stops. The closer to the camera is the aperture ring, which moves in clicks. This lens is not really designed for video work, moving from f1.8 to f16, and the second one is the focus ring, which is a little wider and has a rotation of about 180 degrees and a very nice resistance to it. The lens has no buttons or switches and is fully manual. It also doesn't seem to have any weather sealing, so be careful when working in the rain. The lens comes in several possible mounts: Sony E mount, Canon RF mount and Nikon Z mounts. We tested the Sony version on our A7R Mark IV. The Anthy has a retracted metal hood. I really like the idea, it's pretty cool, but the design could be a little bit better since the hood wiggles a bit. Grooves would have probably prevented this, but honestly this is really nitpicking. The lens has a 52mm filter thread, and if you're curious, the rear element is quite recessed. Moving on to performance, we tested the sharpness of the lens using our special large professional Imatest high-end chart. As you can see wide open, the image in the center is exceptionally sharp. Looking at the corners, we see a very different picture and the image is soft at least until f5.6. The lens has a close-up distance of about 22 centimeters from the end of the lens. Note that the official close-up distance is typically measured from the sensor and hence is a few centimeters longer. The lens is pretty soft in the center at this distance wide open, but closing down to f2.8 improves the image quality considerably. We have already determined that this lens was not designed with video in mind, and it indeed has some visible breathing when focusing from close-up to infinity. The lens does have some minor color fringing wide open, which goes away when you step down to f2.8. We actually really like the way the flare is handled by this lens. It is certainly visible but looks very cinematic. The lens has a very prominent darkening of the corners until f4, which never completely disappears even at f5.6. When it came to barrel distortion, the lens doesn't seem to have any barrel or pincushion distortion in our testings. The Anthy has a pretty pleasant background separation with a nice bokeh with clean light balls, although wide open those get oval very quickly as you move away from the center of the frame. One characteristic of a lens which we typically do not test, but we did with this lens, is color. As you can see, the Anthy has a very strong yellow cast when compared to our Sony 20mm f1.8 lens, review coming soon. We know other users reported blue or purple blooming. We did not encounter that. In our view though, the distinct color of the lens is a big part of its charm, but if you're looking for a natural color lens, this one isn't for you. So what do you think about the Anthy 35mm f1.8 lens? Well, we're going to use a word that we kind of hate, but does seem really appropriate here. This lens has some unique character to it. These days, this term is thrown into the air way too often, but as we hope we have shown you in this review, the Anthy has some really objective special characteristics that gives it a unique look. It is not super sharp corner to corner wide open, it doesn't have amazing contrast, but there is just something about those warm images that it produces that has a special quality to them. With that beautiful bokeh, cinematic flare, and strong center sharpness, it just has so much potential in the right hands. But does this mean that this lens is right for everybody? No, certainly not. This is a fully manual lens and hence not quite as easy to nail focus with, especially with moving subjects wide open, and the aperture ring moves in clicks with a pretty substantial breathing, making it less than ideal for video shooters. Our bottom line, for just under $300, it is pretty hard to beat for anybody looking for a modern classic still lens for mirrorless cameras. Just make sure you understand what you're getting with this lens before you actually buy one. So that was our look at the Yasuhara 35mm Anthy lens. You can check out the full review on lensvid.com with all of our test results. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. See you next time.